Welcome to Entry Point Faith. Join us each week to discover fresh meaning in the world and find faith your way. Now, here is Pastor Nancy Lafferty.
"What's on your mind today?" she said. "Oh, you know," I said, "the usual mix." "Anything I can do?" she asked. "I know that loneliness can be tough." And thanking her, I shook my head. "Your being here's enough." So wrote Andy Calloway in his very short poem, Being Here. We are living in a lonely time. People of all ages are lonely, not just us old people. From teens to college students to the elderly. People who live in big cities are lonely. People who live in rural areas are lonely. Loneliness has now been declared a public health issue with real physical health impact. In 2017, the Harvard Business Review wrote a cover story entitled "Work and the Loneliness Epidemic." That was before the real epidemic. During this story, former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy declared this profound statement: "The world is suffering from an epidemic of loneliness." Now, on May 1st, 2018, the global health service company Cigna launched an incredible national survey trying to figure out what was happening with loneliness. So the end result of that survey was, very simply, most American adults are considered lonely. Here are two of their alarming findings. After surveying more than 20,000 adults in the United States, ages 18 and older, these two things. Number one, nearly half of Americans report feeling alone or left out some of the time or all of the time. Number two, only half of Americans have meaningful in-person social interactions on a daily basis. And that was before the pandemic. Today's statistics are even more startling. In fact, the number one age group that is now most at risk is college students. You wouldn't think that, would you? If you are feeling lonely today, you are not alone in that feeling. In fact, Paula Starks writes, "There's nothing abnormal about loneliness. But when we're feeling it, we think we are abnormal, don't we?" I think that we can agree that our culture is in part to blame. We have become so much more impersonal with each passing day, week, month, and year. Customer service is now about speed, it's not about people. Words are exchanged minimally and infrequently. We spend less and less time with people outside of our homes, and we spend less and less time talking to people inside of our homes. Now, one interesting finding that came from that survey was that the age group of Americans who felt more connected to others and would be viewed as the least lonely is the generation they call the greatest generation. People who are aged 72 and older. I think it's because this great generation makes it a point to meet with people face to face. Now, throughout my lifetime, I've been a people watcher. And I've noticed a change in how people wait in public areas. You know, when we're waiting at the doctor's office or the vet's office, or we're waiting to vote, or the BMV, or the drugstore, waiting for our name to be called, or waiting for the service to be performed, tires to be put on the car, people generally just sit silently, right? And they look at a screen. They look at their phone. Or they're listening to music with their earbuds. Both of those activities are isolating activities in the middle of people. Now, granted, the people that are around you are strangers, but not so long ago, in a setting like that, we used to strike up a conversation with a pure stranger just to pass the time. I remember very fondly one day several years ago, many years ago, when about 50 of us were all in a Disney-like line for at least an hour at a Florida BMV. None of us knew each other, but as we moved through the line together, total strangers, we talked and we laughed and we told stories, and by the end of the hour, we were all singing together. Oh, those were the good old days. One important point of differentiation, though, is being alone versus feeling alone. Often we are comfortable being alone, right? And sometimes it's welcomed. When we are a parent of a young child, we start to think that we'll never have more than 5 minutes on our own and ever go to the bathroom again by ourselves. Being alone is sometimes the very best thing that can happen to us. It gives us an opportunity to reflect. It gives us an opportunity to pray. It gives us an opportunity to gather our wits about us. But feeling alone is very different. We can feel alone whether we are actually alone or in the midst of a crowd of people. Feeling alone while we are sitting beside someone is a terrible feeling. Feeling alone in the midst of a crowd is a complicated feeling of emptiness. Now, we once had a dog named Bailey. She was a golden retriever who was filled with love and a huge amount of separation anxiety. So when Marcy would leave the house for work in the morning, Bailey would always be downstairs with her, and the minute Marcy would walk out the door, she would howl. Not just a short howl, a long howl of plaintive cry. It was laden with sadness and anxiety, love and loss. Now, how did I know how that sounded? Because I was upstairs in my office. I was in the house under the very same roof with her, but she forgot that I was there. I would call out to her as soon as she would start wailing, "Bailey, I'm here." And if she couldn't hear because she was wailing so loudly, finally, "Bailey, I'm right here. Come up here, come here." And finally, once she heard me, she would just stop mid-howl. "Oh, someone else is here." And depending on her level of awareness or embarrassment, she might come bounding up the stairs to see me, or she might just lie down where she was on the kitchen floor with, I suspect, an inner smile because she was reminded that she was not alone. And isn't that each one of us when we feel completely on our own? Yet in the book of Hebrews, God reminds each one of us, "I will never leave you or forsake you." God is still right there with us, loving us, but in our sorrow and our loneliness, we forgot. And then, like Bailey, once we remember, we feel God's presence all over again, and we lie right back down where we are with that inner smile, or we go bounding off with new energy. In addition to recognizing that God is with us, one of the best remedies for loneliness is to help other people. Helping others takes us out of ourselves. It reinforces the value of other people in the world. A person is helped, and then we end up feeling better because we stopped focusing on ourselves, and the world is much more beautiful. We need to be alert and to watch for others who might also be feeling lonely. I once worked at a school where one of the male teachers was always staying late every single night, even after me. Even on a Friday, he would be in his room grading papers, shuffling papers around, long after everyone had left the building. So one evening after I observed this behavior, I stopped by his room and I said, "Hey, you all right?" And he goes, "Oh, sure, I'm fine. As long as I'm here, I don't have to go home to my empty house." So I stood there and I talked with him for a while, and we became really good friends over time, and I would always stop by his room on my way out. We are still very good friends today. We never know the burden that people carry. Some of the people who enter our building every Sunday morning might be feeling terribly lonely. They would love to be asked to sit with someone. They might not feel comfortable asking you. Speak to them. Invite them to sit. You might make a new friendship. Another remedy for loneliness is, as the gentleman said, get a pet. A pet is someone who will love you instantly, someone whose needs you must think about. A pet offers us unconditional love and companionship. Our dog, Bo, is definitely a source of companionship for us. He follows us all around the house, protects us from the squirrels and the birds in his yard, and reminds us when it's time to take him on a walk. Now, we talk to him all day long, right? The most commonly spoken sentences in our house go like this. What did you say? Oh, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Bo. Right? We don't talk to each other. We talk to the dog. Bo goes to work with me every day in my home office. He has a bed right there that he sleeps in, and he's always the first to hear my Sunday messages. Usually he agrees with my points, but every now and then I have to be honest. On occasion, he gets up and walks out. Finally, a great way to overcome loneliness is to say yes to more invitations. I think especially during the pandemic, we got really used to saying no. We get used to that, and then saying yes feels uncomfortable, and it feels like we've overcommitted all of a sudden. It's easier to say no, I get that. But that's also a choice to remain isolated. Let's take a chance, my friends. Let's say yes to an opportunity to gather with friends. Let's say yes to a chance to talk with strangers. We never know what that result might bring. We are all hardwired for connection. When we don't have it, we miss out on joy. We miss out on companionship. We miss out on the very thing we need, which is the comfort of others' presence. According to Martha Beck, loneliness is proof that your innate search for connection is intact. When you feel it, try to make a connection. If you are feeling lonely right now, I hope that you will understand this loving community is here for you. We want to help you and care for you. We are hopeful that you will continue to be a part of us, that you will become an integral part of us and recognize that we are here for each other. God is always with us. Perhaps get a pet, help others, and let's try to say yes to more of the invitations that are extended to us. Amen.
Thanks for listening in on this week's discussion on Entry Point Faith. You can join the Entry Point Faith community in person every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. at Conner Prairie in Fishers, Indiana. For more information and a transcript of Nancy's messages, visit entrypointonline.org. Entry Point Faith is brought to you in partnership with mypodcast.media.